Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Sydney from PhoneDoc.com and I'm about to do a review for you guys of the ZTE Fury from Sprint. This is a new Android smartphone. It's very inexpensive, only $20 on contract. So if you're looking for a cheap phone but a good smartphone, the Fury might be a good option for you. The question is it a good option for you? How does it perform? It's got a 3.5-inch display, a 1 GHz processor, and a 5-megapixel camera, but does all of that come together well enough to make it worth your time and worth your $20? That's what we're going to find out in this full review. Before we start that, I have to say, especially to my friends at Best Buy Mobile, we thank them because they send us the phones that we add to our One Pop Bandit game, and that's the game where you guys can win free phones. One of the great things about Best Buy Mobile is that when you buy a phone from them, you don't have to worry about rebates because the price on the tag is the price you pay. So thank you, Best Buy Mobile, for being so awesome. Thank you guys for watching this video. It's a review of the ZTE Fury from Sprint. I'm Sydney from PhoneDoc.com. Let's get started. So these low-end inexpensive phones can be kind of tricky. You know, sometimes they're great. I've tested out some that performed very well, that surprised me, were very impressive, and I tested out some that were disappointing. So, you know, which one is the Fury? Is it going to surprise you with great performance, or is it going to be disappointing? First of all, what do you get with the Fury? Well, to start off with, you have a 3.5-inch display on the front here. It has a resolution of 480 by 800. So this is kind of a low resolution, but again, pretty standard for a phone in this category, being only $20 on contract. It looks great. You can see it's very bright, very responsive. The touchscreen itself is responsive. Obviously, once you get close, you're going to notice some pixelation. Sometimes the graphics aren't very smooth, but still, it's a great display, and it's generally what you can expect in this price range. I've had very few problems with it. I will say that the touchscreen itself is plastic, and so sometimes, at least I've noticed with plastic displays, they tend to get more buildup of just kind of this sticky film on them. They'll start off smooth, and when you clean it, it'll be smooth, but then after about a day, they start to get kind of sticky. They'll start to get some residue on them. So that's kind of a problem I've had with the Fury that I've had, you know, with other phones with the plastic screen. You know, again, can be kind of frustrating. It's just one thing to take note of. And then you have Android 2.3. So this is the most recent phone version of Android. Outside of the most recent version is Android 4.0. So you're only one version behind, which is not too bad. I'm not sure if this will be upgraded to Android 4.0. I would be surprised if it was upgraded. But at least you have Android 2.3, and this is a stock version of Android. So ZTE and Sprint, ZTE has made no customizations at all. Sprint has added a couple of things. You can see down here in this dock, you have a shortcut to Sprint ID. Sprint ID is not really a new thing anymore, but it allows you to download ID packs, and those packs are categorized. I'm already logged in. Anyway, they're categorized. You have like an entertainment ID pack or a sports ID pack, and each ID pack will come with wallpapers, it'll come with apps, widgets, all related to that theme. This, you know, to me, it's not extremely useful, but if you are new to Android, it can be kind of helpful because, you know, say you're new to Android and all you know is that you like music, you want either, you know, Pandora or Slacker, but you're not sure what apps are in the Play Store. You don't want to go hunting through it for half an hour or an hour trying to figure out, okay, this is the app I want. Instead, you can just download an ID pack that has to do with, you know, music or entertainment or sports, and then you get all of those apps in one ID pack. So, you know, just a kind of a quick rundown of what Sprint ID is, and it can be helpful for people who are new to Android. You don't have to go hunt around in the Play Store. You can just download a pack. Outside of that, very few customizations. You can see the notification panel here. It's blank, just stock Android. You do have some widgets that come with it, but these are all Google widgets. You'll notice some of these are widgets that I've downloaded or that have come with an ID pack that I downloaded. But you have Facebook, Google Play, Google Search, Google Plus. All of these are just Android apps and widgets that you get with all Android with all Android phones, and you have the app drawer here. So again, you know, a stock version of Android, which helps the performance. You know, sometimes you have low-end phones with not a lot of RAM, or maybe the processor isn't that impressive. And then you have, on top of that, you know, a custom skin that kind of just bogs it down and slows it down. But with the Fury, you have stock Android, so you don't have to worry about that. Going to performance, you know, I talked about the amount of RAM. It has 512 megabytes of RAM. Along with that, you've got a 1 gigahertz Qualcomm processor. So performance has actually been pretty good. You know, 1 gigahertz processor, it's not a dual core processor, but it's still been adequate. I've had very few problems with lag or with slowdowns. You can see I have Phone Dog loaded here, and I can pinch to zoom, and it's very smooth. Now I have the plugins turned off. When the plugins are turned on, it kind of slows down a little bit. Pinch to zoom is still smooth with the plugins turned on, but other things like transitions are not as smooth. You can see here, they're fairly smooth, you know, a little bit choppy, but this is with the plugins turned off. But, you know, the processor still does a great job, and, you know, opening apps pretty much instantaneously. I have very few problems with that. The only downside, maybe the only negative, is just the amount of RAM, 512 megabytes of RAM. So sometimes multitasking can be, that's really when the phone slows down. Now, again, I've been very impressed with the performance. I've noticed very few slowdowns, even when I do have multiple apps open. But you will notice it just because it is kind of a low amount of RAM. And so sometimes I've noticed the usual lag that you can expect with a low-end phone. I'm going to do some benchmark tests here, but really I've been pretty impressed with it. Let's run a quadrant, oh, and it just force closed. Well, there's one problem. Let's run a quick quadrant standard benchmark and give you guys an idea of some of the numbers and how the phone performs. Okay, so on the benchmark test, we have a score of 1,602. Let's go over and do a smart bench test and see what score we get here. Okay, on Smart Bench 2012, we have a productivity index score of 740, which is pretty low, and then on the gaming index, 2,192. So, yeah, as you can see, the scores are not very impressive, but a lot of times, you know, benchmark tests don't really tell the whole story, and performance has been pretty good. Now, you know, I mentioned earlier, we'll talk a little bit about the hardware. I mentioned earlier the display. Another kind of problem with having a 3.5-inch display is that it's pretty small, and so for some people, typing, it'll be a little bit uncomfortable, and this is something that I've noticed even with my small hands, and I do have pretty tiny hands, but it does feel a little cramped. And of course, you know, used to 3.5 inches was the standard. I mean, you know, when the iPhone came out, 3.5 inches was just, it was the way it was, and Android phones were like that for a while. But now, you know, we have options, a 4-inch display, 4.3-inch display, and so we're just used to that. So typing on a small 3.5-inch display can sometimes be a little bit uncomfortable. So let's see if I can get this over the lazy dog sog. Yeah, I was all over the place with that one. It's just, it's a little bit too small. And obviously this is going to be on the size of your hands. I mean, for some people it'll be perfect. For some people it won't. And you can always download alternate keyboards from the Android market. I'm using the Android keyboard right now. Or the Play Store. I said the Android market, but it's actually, it has a new name. It's the Play Store. So let's see if landscape mode is probably better. The quick brown fox jumps. Whoop. Okay. All right. It was like, you know what? I'm tired of that message. I don't even want to type that anymore. So, okay. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. So that was definitely better. I only had one mistake. So yeah, the small display can sort of be a problem. Below the display you have 4 buttons. These are capacitive buttons: home, menu, back, and search. On the right side you have a dedicated camera button, which is nice to have. I personally always like it when you have a dedicated camera button. On top is the power button, as well as the screen lock and unlock button. 3.5mm headphone jack. On the left side, you have the volume rocker button and the micro USB port for charging as well as data syncing. There is a notification LED light right about here, I believe. It's not flashing right now, but there is a notification light. It flashes green or red depending on the notification. So if you like having that, then you do have that.